I'm up at the dojo. I have an hour before classes start, and I just thought I would ramble on and maybe cause a little trouble. And what I mean by that is generally, I'm very, well, no generally about it. I'm very open about expressing myself, but I generally try, not saying I accomplish, but I try to be kind about it or diplomatic. I try not to express myself to the fullest that I could in a manner that is just blunt, I guess, just blunt. But my channel doesn't get a lot of views. My videos don't get a lot of views, and I'm curious as to whether or not I could get this video to get views. So I've decided to be rash, brash, rough, obnoxious, cruel, mean, and whatever else you want to come up with, whatever other else you want to come up with. Now, I will say this, I do have standards. I do have a code. I am not going to lie. I will not lie. But I can be honest and mean and rude at the same time. So let's see how this goes. I'm trying to think of a name for the video, and I'm thinking I'm going to name this video "All Martial Arts Except for Mine Suck." I think that would be a good title, and I think that would draw people in because people want conflict. I don't care what anybody says. Human beings thrive on conflict. And I try not to place conflict onto my channel, but I'm going to do it on purpose today in this video. So, and I'm not lying when I say all martial arts suck except for mine. That's an absolute truth for me. But that's the point for me. It's not the same for everybody. So I'm going to kind of be mean when I express myself today in this video, just to see if I can get more views and just to see if I can antagonize or irritate people. It may not be a nice thing to do, but let's be honest, I don't really care. So here we go. Zenshin Aikijitsu, I created that. That's a development that I have created throughout the 44 years that I've been training martial arts now. And I developed that system for me and me alone, plain and simple. I don't care what someone else thinks about anything. I don't care how something works for somebody else. I don't care about any of that. What is for you is for you. What is for me is for me. I am only concerned in my best interests. Now, you can call that whatever you want, and again, I don't really care. But the person, as far as my martial arts is concerned, the only person that matters is me. That's plain and simple. Now, and that's how I developed this martial art. I developed this martial art with myself and only myself in mind. I have been training since I was 12 years old, and I have trained in, I don't know, half a dozen different systems, and throughout all of that, I have picked and gathered and poked and prodded and throughout my life have developed what works for me. Now, it's not what works for me up here at the dojo because I've never been out on the street and never had a fight. That's not true. I used to fight in the streets all the time. I'm not saying that's a great thing, but I used to fight in the streets all the time. I've fought in cages. I've fought in the streets. I've also competed in karate tournaments, in dojo type mat oriented, stuff like that really isn't real life, but for some reason people want to call those people fighters when they're actually just people who play the game of tag. Things to that nature. I've done the whole slew of it, right? And throughout that, I have figured out what works for me. And I developed that, I've worked on it. And what doesn't work for me, I don't bother with. I could care less about it because it doesn't work for me, or I don't care to make it work for me. Anything can work for you if you want it to. Example, I don't generally, and people will argue this, there's a few of them that might watch this video that will automatically argue this, but generally I do not kick. I have no interest in kicking. I don't like to kick. I am definitely not a high kicker. I do not have any interest in kicking you above your waist. None whatsoever. Now, I'm not saying it hasn't happened before, but I'm saying that I have no real interest, and I don't train kicking people above the waist. All of my kicks are to the legs. That's just how I train. So I have no interest in any kicking style that kicks above the waist. As a great example, take Taekwondo. I have no interest in Taekwondo. For me, it has nothing of interest for me. Absolutely nothing of interest. I find Taekwondo to have no redeeming qualities whatsoever for me. Now, if I had decided in my younger days that kicking high was cool and fun and I wanted to do that and I wanted to get skilled at it, I would have done that. And I might be better at it, but no interest. So it has nothing for me. As a matter of fact, and this is a fact, for me, which makes it a truth, which makes it my opinion, they're all the same thing. There are no Korean martial arts that I can think of right now, absolutely zero Korean arts that I have any interest in. To me, all Korean arts are useless. Plain and simple. Now, I also view all Korean arts as a bastardized ripoff of other cultures' martial arts with just high, flashy, flippy, twisty kicks involved. That's just how I see it. Right or wrong, it doesn't really matter. For you, you can have a different viewpoint. I don't really care. But for me, that's how I see it, and that's how they are for me. All Korean martial arts are useless for me. I like Wing Chun. I find some practicality in that for me. But as far as I can think right now, there's no other Chinese martial art that has any interest to me. Again, I find them all to be useless for me. I don't like katas. I don't like flippy twistiness. I just don't like Chinese martial arts. Plain and simple. Just not interested in them. I tolerate Japanese martial arts. There are some that I really like, and as a matter of fact, a lot of them I have incorporated into Zenshin Aikijitsu. I can tolerate Japanese martial arts, although I am not a linear one-punch type person. My viewpoints do tend to emulate more of the Chinese attitude about circular flowing movement, but I did not come to that conclusion because of Chinese martial arts. I came to the conclusion of the circular flowy type movements as best for me from Indonesia and Filipino systems. So I did not get my philosophy through Chinese martial arts, although the Chinese tend to deal more with the fluid circular, while the Japanese tend to go more towards the linear hard. So anyway, I can tolerate Japanese martial arts. I am really into Filipino, Indonesian type martial arts with the Kali, the Salat, and things to that nature. That's really where my interests really lie is there. And of course the Aikido, the Ninjutsu, the Japanese Jiu-Jitsu type, Daito-Ryu type Jiu-Jitsu stuff, all of that, absolutely. But I've got my circular flowing attitude through the Filipino and Indonesian martial arts. So I do like those. I can tolerate Japanese martial arts because there's a lot of that there that I've drawn on. I do not like Chinese martial arts in general, and I cannot honestly say that I find any redeeming qualities whatsoever to Korean martial arts, period. Personal opinion. Taekwondo is nothing more than karate with high flashy kicks. Hapkido is nothing more than Aikido with high flashy kicks. I don't know the name of the system, but they even ripped off Filipino Kali, and I can't remember the name of their system that they call it, but all they did was took Filipino Kali, gave it a Korean name, and guess what? Added high flashy flippy kicks. That's it. So there's that. Now, all of these arts, all of them, were designed for someone other than myself. None of these arts were designed by me or for me personally, which makes them inadequate for me. So I had to find something that best suited me. And I say that best suited for me. The only way you can do that is to create it yourself. Now, there's a big stigma about people creating their own martial arts, and I see it because a large number of people who do that, in my viewpoint, have absolutely no freaking skills whatsoever. Plain and simple. I mean, it's just ridiculously goofy to watch these people. And I'm not saying I'm not in that category. You may watch some of my stuff and think I'm the most ridiculous person on the planet and I have no idea what I'm doing. Absolutely, you could think that. I don't really care. But what I have learned, what I have developed, works. Absolutely works for me. Absolutely no doubt whatsoever. I've used it in real life. I've used it in a cage. I've used it in a dojo. It works for me. Whether it works for you or not, don't know. And it's not really my concern whether it does or it doesn't. Now, I have found that there are people who find my system suitable for them as well. Those people train with me. And if it suits you, fantastic. I am more than willing to accommodate and to teach and to help you develop your abilities and skills through the way I do things. Now, if you want to go beyond, around, through, doesn't matter how you get to my art. If you want to go past what I do, you're going to have to do that on your own eventually. I will do the best I can to help you and to guide you, but if you have aspirations that are outside of what I consider to be effective for me, I encourage that, but that's an adventure you're going to take without me, because I know what works for me. I am happy with what works for me, and I'm going to stay inside my little box of what works for me. Now, my box constantly expands and shrinks and expands and shrinks. When I find something that I am doing or used to do that just doesn't work for me anymore, out it goes. It's gone. If it doesn't work for me, there's no reason for me to have it. If I find something outside of what I'm doing that works for me, I'll grab it, I'll pull it into my system, and I'll develop it and I'll work it until I either get it to work for me and then I'm like, cool, there it is, it's in there now. Or if I realize that's really not going to work for me, or if I say, well, that will work for me, but I'll probably never do it, I'll still work on it. It'll just kind of mingle in and just lay there. If I use it, I use it. If I don't, I don't. But if I realize it's not going to be effective for me, out it goes. I have no interest in it. So all martial arts suck, except for mine. For me. I don't like kata. I think kata is ridiculous for me. There's no real, practical, effective use for kata in of itself. Most systems, to gain rank and belts and all that stuff, all you got to do is just a bunch of freaking katas. That's it. The majority of these people have no freaking idea what they're doing. Even the people who claim they know what the kata means really doesn't know what they're doing. You're never touching another person. You can sit there and do whatever your kata is for 1,000,000 years. You know, sit there and practice this kata up and down your dojo and across the street and wherever you do your katas. You can do that forever. But until you start working on that with a real person, none of that's going to help you in a real life situation. Now, there are three, in my viewpoint, there are three reasons or three types, and I'll use the generic term martial art. Okay, it's a generic term. We're just gonna use that just to symbolize this entire topic. Now, there's three types. You have an art, you have a sport, and then you have combat. Three different things that have nothing to do with each other. Nothing to do with each other. So you have a martial art that is based off of art. Those type of martial arts and martial artists are truly just concerned about tradition, about culture, about having something to do because they're bored and they don't know they don't have anything else to do. A lot of those people think that they're learning something that's involved with combat, maybe even sport, but they're not. And martial art stuff, the art is all of the fluff, all that stuff that can be nice to know, and you can learn it and make yourself feel good about yourself and all of that kind of stuff, but does not help you in the least bit in a real life situation. All right, there's many people who train martial arts for the art aspect of it. Somebody likes a certain culture. We'll just say Japanese because Japanese. People like the Japanese culture and, you know, the samurai, the ninja, the whole thing, right? So they get into martial arts because they're interested in the Japanese culture and they want to learn that, so they do. Yay for them, but not interested, really not interested in that whatsoever. Unfortunately, because I teach, some of the art is placed in Zenshin Aikijitsu because I want my system to be well-rounded. I want my system to be balanced and well-rounded. So, not only do I have to incorporate all four ranges of combat, but I also have to incorporate the 3 types. So, and just real quick, the 4 ranges are kicking, punching, trapping, and grappling. If you don't have a system that has all 4 of those, you have an incomplete system. Period. From my point of view. Now, the 3 types, you got the art, so we discussed the art. Then you have the sport. You have the sport aspect of it. Now, most of that is involved around tournaments, and I'm not talking about fighting tournaments. I'm talking about tag, point fighting, kata competitions, that sort of thing. That's a sport. Now, MMA is a sport. MMA, cage fighting, all that is a sport. It's not street fighting. Completely different thing. Now, I had my time in point karate. I'll admit it, and also admit I wasn't any good at it, but I did okay. I was a national champion, but I didn't like it. But I did my point tournament stuff. Didn't do katas. I did the kumite, the tag. I did that. Quite embarrassing, but I did. But generally, when you're talking about the competition aspect of martial arts, you're talking about these games of tag, regardless of what style you study. Generally, it's just all a matter of game of tag. Who could have hit you? Who was the quickest? Who just barely touched you on the head like this, just a little tap, just, or who put their foot really close to your face and could have hit you if they had wanted to, theoretically. All that kind of goofy crap. Sport. MMA falls under the sport aspect, absolutely. And again, I delved deeply into that one as well. I was very, very much into the sport of MMA. And again, was lucky enough to win a title. And that was fantastic. I'm not embarrassed about that one. The point karate stuff, I don't talk about that very often. I mean, I admit to doing it because I'm not going to lie, but yeah. So anyway, but the MMA stuff is just a sport. So get that in your head, people. MMA is not fighting. It is not combat. MMA is a sport. I don't consider sport martial artists fighters. They're not fighters. They're competitors. So anyway, then you have the people or the martial arts style or system that's dedicated to actual real street combat. That's what I like. That's what I focus on myself personally. Now, I will say for 2 reasons. One is to make it a well-rounded system, I had to incorporate all 3. But 2, because I teach it to the general public, I also had to make sure that sport and art was involved with the combat. So anyway, combat are for the people who want to be able to use it for real in real life out on the street. No rules, no ifs, ands, or buts. Truly for real. Now, you'll get the competition stuff, and you'll really get the people who teach the martial art aspect of it, trying to convince you that they teach you self-defense, which is BS. They'll try to tell you they teach self-defense and they teach combat and fighting and all that kind of stuff. They use different words for it. They try not to use combat, fighting. They try not to use those type of words. They like self-defense or come up with some other kind of crazy woke name for, self-protection or whatever. Try to make it sound nice and peaceful and all that. But real self-defense isn't nice and peaceful. Not in the least bit. But anyway, art's fine. I don't have any, I could say a lot of crap about it, but, it's there for a purpose. And it caters to a particular group of people. Then you have the sport aspect of it, which also cater to a certain group of people, and it has its advantages as well. Then you have the combat aspect of it. Again, it caters to a certain group of people, but these certain group of people are kind of difficult to get into the competition versus and the art aspect of it. And when the people in the art aspect try to pretend that they're the combat aspect, it kind of blurs things a little bit, especially for people who don't really realize that katas are not going to help you in a self-defense situation. Katas are useless in real combat. Katas have absolutely no purpose whatsoever to do with real self-defense and combat. None. Anyway, katas suck. I don't like them. Again, I have 6 Joe forms in Zenshin Aikido to accommodate the people who want katas. I can't stand katas. Katas to me are ridiculous, worthless, and useless. It's a fluff that teachers teach because they've got nothing else real to teach. That's my viewpoint. Disagree all you want, don't really care. Kata are useless. As a matter of fact, they were designed, the way they were taught to Americans, it was designed to be useless. They were designed to be useless to us. They told us all kinds of stupid stuff about, oh, this is a block, this is this, and this is, that's all bull crap. It's all crap. So delve into it all you want. Katas are ridiculous. Tag point tournament karate stuff may be fun and you may enjoy it and you may be really good at it, but that does not mean you're going to be a good fighter. Doesn't mean you're going to be a good street fighter. Doesn't mean you're going to have any skills to literally protect yourself in real life. So all martial arts suck, except for mine. Here's another thing. Drives me freaking bonkers. People who believe, either the people that have them or the people who don't have them thinking, people who believe that black belts, if you have a black belt, that means you know how to fight. That is so far from the truth, it's ridiculous. That's just so absurd, it's just ridiculous. I know a lot of people who have black belts that have never been in a real fight in their life. And to be totally honest, probably couldn't fight their way out of a wet paper bag. And then again, I know a lot of people that's never entered into a dojo. It could probably kick the majority of the black belts' butts. Black belts don't mean crap. Having a black belt doesn't mean a single thing when it comes to fighting. Absolutely nothing to do with it. Sometimes competition, so we got fighters, competition, and art. Sometimes the people that do competitions gain rank by the amount of competitions they've gone to and the amount of wins that they have. So competitions could play a little bit to do with a black belt. Real fights, no. Competition fights, could, absolutely. But the majority of the people who get black belts are in this category here. This artsy fartsy, doesn't really mean anything to anybody, just I do it because there's something to do type attitude. Again, like I said, generally you get rank in most arts, not Zen Shin Jitsu, but most arts, you get rank by the amount of katas that you know. Or sometimes they do light sparring tag. So basically the techniques that you learn in class when you're doing the punching like this and the blocking and all of that crazy goofy shit that doesn't really work. That's what gets you black belts, generally. That's what gets you black belts. I know people that have 4 or 5 black belts in different systems who are 4th, 5th, 6th degree black belts in like 4 or 5 different systems. And they know a lot of freaking katas and they talk shit, but don't have any real skills in my point of view, at least none that I'm impressed with, or none that would make me say, ooh, I want to learn that. Most people who have black belts, well, everybody, including myself, just because you have a black belt doesn't mean you know how to fight, period. Plain and simple. It's not, a black belt doesn't magically or mysteriously gain you some kind of ability to be able to defend yourself. It just doesn't happen. And the higher rank you get doesn't mean that you're better. Truly, it does not. Generally, the higher rank you are just means one of a few things. And we'll look at maybe the most positive versions of it before we go down to the other stuff that generally happens. But it just means that you've generally, it means that you've spent more time at the dojo, which means you spent more money at the dojo, which means you've probably learned a few extra katas, and you're probably teaching classes for the teacher for free because you're a black belt and that's one of your responsibilities. So he's getting free labor and you get to call yourself X degree black belt. That's about the best thing I could say about it. But generally it's just how much money you throw at the gym or at the dojo that you're training at, and how much time you spend there. So, I mean, you know, I could go into most dojos and spend $1,500, $3,000, you know, $6,000, and whether or not I know the material really well or not, I'll get my black belt. I mean, you know, I've already paid for it, so it'll generally get given to me whether I really know the material very well or not. Now, most people who obtain black belts, who desire to obtain black belts, at least have the dedication and desire to learn the material that's required for that black belt. Most people who have black belts aren't 100% scammers who just gave a Taekwondo school, you know, $6,000, $12,000, and in 6 months you got a black belt. And it happens. Now I'm using Taekwondo because I see it mostly in that style, but it happens everywhere. It happens everywhere.